Welcome to Vegas Hackware, Series 1, Episode 6. This is what I wanted to do, something I haven't done in a while. This is called the DEF CON Decline Talk. Basically, I've been applying for doing a talk for the past couple years, and they keep on getting declined, so I figured, why don't I bring it up here, like as one of my episodes? Pardon my dust here. I'm still dealing with this weird allergy that I've been dealing with. So technically, what is my talk about? Why was it? Well, they actually don't give me a reason why it's declined. So, I think I kind of have an idea, which totally the wrong perception of why you probably assume. But let me bring up a document that I was writing. A while back, I wrote a book, Vegas Hackware. It's my first volume. I'm writing part 2. So, but my talk is basically how I worked for the criminal, how basically I took all this trauma and all the stuff that's been piled up on me, and how I diffused it and turn it all into a good positive. So, if you haven't noticed, I worked from the ISP from 2000 to 2007. Then I returned back in 2011 to 2012. So, just in case you didn't read my book, you should. It's out there, VegasHackware.com. And so, long story short, back in 2000, I hacked into an ISP. This is the local ISP I hacked into, compromised them, ended up working for them. Basically, it's more like an intern kind of situation, but it wasn't really labeled as an intern. It was more like I was working for them. They didn't have the money to give me, so they end up paying my bills here and there. It's really not that much. But from there, I started taking on different multi-hat roles. I started learning a lot. I was taking a lot of that time. Basically, I ended up living at that at the business, learning everything I can, becoming system administrator, network administrator, an engineer, data center, and all that cool stuff. There's so much stuff that I've done up until 2003. I got sick with cancer and all that stuff. But before then, I didn't just do that. I also brought a lot of my pirating in and stuff like that. All before I got sick. Once I got sick, I kind of like totally dropped all that and just focused more on the career, wearing more of the white hat than anything else. So, 2003, cancer happened, fought it for a little bit, get the chemotherapy, and then that's when I started noticing different things about the owner of the ISP. And this owner of the ISP, he was already like a giant child to begin with. He was like a fast talking salesman with high charisma, and he did a lot of things behind the scenes that I never really picked up on because I was really naive and young. A lot of things that very, very verbally toxic, verbally abusive towards pretty much a lot of people, especially everyone around him. Yeah, mentally draining, big time. And he was also very physical abusing. Mainly, if you wanted to get your paycheck out of him, where he signed you a check for that week of work or whatever, you had to wrestle him for it. I didn't get paid, so I never had to wrestle him. But other employees, I've noticed that he had to wrestle them. I don't know why he had to play like a jackass like that. They hated that shit. They've always talked behind his back on how much they hated doing that kind of stuff, and they wanted to get away. And they technically did get away, because right when the end of 2003, we all got involved with the FBI, and that is when I found out that long story short, I got a call that 2003. I was still undergoing chemotherapy at the time. It was so stupid. But I got a call from my boss telling me, hey, I need you to come help me. He didn't say what it was, just he needs help me. He needs help now. Come right away. Here's a location. I show up. As soon as I show up, it's a warehouse. It had like a U-Haul next to the loading area. They were loading boxes. I noticed that it said vodka something. I'm like, what the fuck? And then as soon as I walk in, FBI comes storming in. And for the next 3 hours, I had FBI agents with freaking automatic weapons pointed at my head for that whole time. It was a very traumatizing moment. And of course, they let me go because I didn't have anything. They knew that I knew nothing about it. And they knew that I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. And so that's basically a little history of the trauma that I went through. I did have a car accident in 2003 too, where I flipped a Mustang over, and this owner was acting as my attorney. But he was able to get $50,000 from the insurance because of that accident. But everybody did warn me not to sign it over to him. I ended up signing it over to him because he wanted to be my financial advisor. So, long story short, by the time of 2007, I had no money left. Not from him anyways. He never paid me. And this whole time, he was promising, up until I left in 2007, he was promising a partnership within the company. I stick around. They'll make it official one day. And then everybody else is making money. I can be a part of that pie too. Well, 2007 rolls by. I with a significant other at the time. Married with that person, and and still was trying to figure out where's my half, where's my part. I'm supposed to be this successful person. How can I show that I'm successful, yet I am not showing it, even though I am. So, but yeah, that's a lot of stuff all together right there. A little back history. My book covers a lot of that. So, and then we go to 2003. I'm in 2023. I released my book. In 2024, my book became the most downloaded at the time. Even though one of my videos that I released called "Working for the Criminal" had the highest view rating ever during the whole trial thing. So a lot of things that are pointing towards, without having to say or having someone tell me, that is a turning point for showing that my story and stuff like that was a positive thing. and put somebody bad away was during that week, because I knew that's the most views I've ever had. That's the most freaking sales I've ever had on my book. So, I mean, I get a sale maybe once a month, and that's it. So, I wanted to roll down is technically I was their unofficial CISO, and I wanted to make a positive out of it because it was a huge. It looks like a huge, giant negative scene filled with nothing but gaslighting / freaking verbal, mental, and physical abuse. And I wanted to make all those years of success, and I wanted to really show it. And that was the whole this talk about. It's like, sometimes if you live through darkness for so long, sometimes you don't see the good. And if you take a moment to take like a step back, there's a lot of good that really came out of it. And so I wanted to point it out, like, let's see, let's start with one key responsibilities I've had. Let's see, at the beginning, I did a lot of development and implementation of a lot of information security strategies. I mean, I started implementing like certain security protocols into some Linux machines that we had on premises. I maintained patches. I made sure I was on top of the patches for like Red Hats at the time. It was like Red Hat 627, and they had Debian servers there. Wanted to make sure they were always up to date. And Windows 2000 and 2003 server were basically huge targets, especially since they were always on the network. So I had to implement software to catch things, to help prevent things, keep it always up to date. So I had plans to always keep it up to date. All the servers up to date. There was like a handful of like 20, 30 servers that I actually was managing per day. And these were Linux, Windows, and every now and then I would jump into one of their Solaris servers that they had and make sure that's up to date and always patched, and always keep that of like best security practices, because back in those days you didn't have a firewall that blocks everything. Instead, everything was static IP directly pointed right out to the network, and yeah, it was a brutal mess. So implementing stuff like an IDS system, that's intrusion detection systems, and on some Linux machines, I actually installed a program called Port Sentry, which actually kind of acts like an intrusion detection system, along with a little bit of honeypotting into it. Basically, when scanners actually scan, they can actually, when they start hitting other ports that shouldn't be open, it'll actually create firewall rules to block them automatically. And I would actually have that emailed to me when that happened. And then that was creating like a whole strategy around that. It's like we had to deploy a new server. I always made sure that there's like extra security software to go on top of it, because I didn't want somebody like me hacking into the ISP and taking it over while I'm working there, because I wanted to prevent that, because I wanted to make sure, I wanted to make sure I'm on top of my game, instead of being the red team, now I'm on the blue team, and I'm trying to be the best blue team I can be, and yet I'm doing this all solo. So it was awesome. It was fun times. It was really fun times. And the only person that I can show KPIs and policies and procedures to was myself, because I couldn't show it to the ISP owner. I tried to. Didn't understand a word I said, especially if I said, hey, I protect your server from all these attacks. And they'll be like, cool. Have a nice day. I don't give a fuck. I don't care. Leave me alone. We're not making money from it. I'm like, I don't know. The guy's freaking weird. So, and then next thing I was going down was, what did I do for like network and infrastructure security? One major flaw was when I first started there, before I got sick with cancer, I was doing a lot of, piracy and stuff like that in the background, but I was still being a target because I was still a part of the little hacker war that was going on the IRC, and we were doing, basically, what would happen is, if they would attack one IP on the network, it would actually just basically shut everyone out that uses DSL or dial-up or stuff like that. And the network mitigation was not really good. So I ended up going in the background, start changing rules here and there, especially when they started to really wanting to limit my bandwidth in my little area that I was doing all that stuff from. I was really learning how to remove that, essentially, and how to really isolate different VLANs of the whole network and try to. They actually had software. I mean, they had Cisco hardware that was actually like years out of date. So it's like really working around different ways of different implementation and rerouting the whole network and trying to prevent people from DDoSing my network and taking down everybody else, and at the same time. So it was a lot of different manipulation and changes around, especially since I was there until like 2-3 o'clock in the morning. I had plenty of time to do some background changes late at night, and nobody will ever pick up on any information on that. So there was a lot of network stuff that I was working on. And back then, it was like Cisco was basically, you couldn't just go to Google and just type in, hey, I'm having a problem with this at the time. You would actually have to pick up a book and start really going through the things, or finding manuals online and try to figure out different ways. And it was wild times. So technically, I picked up a lot of knowledge on Cisco routing, and HP routing. It was cool, fun times. And I never had the chance to get my CCNA because I can't afford it. Never could afford it. I've been trying to afford it. Every time I've tried to go get the certification of any certification, something happens. And it's just been a nightmare. Alright, that's number 2 on my list, which is network and information security. So I did a lot of their stuff. I try to manage a lot of their vulnerabilities, especially in the background, especially since I love running out-of-date Cisco software. They use Zyxel routers for their DSL and wireless. When they acquired the P2P wireless or point-to-multi-point connections, a lot of their software, especially those little freaking Zyxel routers, and they upgraded to Unify, or I can't pronounce that right. It's one of those Unify routers. And they never really try to keep it up to date on that. I think pretty much when I got back into 2011, I actually had to bring out the list of all those clients that they had. They had out of date unified uni routers that were like freaking months or no years out of date, and they needed like firmware updates and better freaking routing practices and whatnot, and stuff like that. But yeah, they were never really good on keeping up to date on their security. Now things are more automated and more up to date, so it's more easier to keep it up to date. It's kind of like a lazier way nowadays. But back then, they were not that lazy. They were lazy, but the software was, always out of date, unless somebody like me went in and actually did the due diligence and got it done. So, and then moving down to number 3 on my list is the data center security operations. So, they really physical wise, they sold a lot about hosting everything inside of a bank vault, but I've never actually seen people actually show up with their credentials saying, "Hey, I'm trying to get into the bank vault and try to hack your stuff and whatever." A lot of those colocation clients that we had at the time for the data center we know them. They were clients, and yeah, we just knew when to do stuff and how to help them out. So keeping like a good relationship with certain businesses was a good thing back then. So they didn't have the system. They probably have a better system now because they have to keep a certain standard of certifications that they have to keep, especially when they were trying to get some hotels and stuff like that. They still have Switch here, which is still a better data center. But I did oversee a lot of virtualization servers and other variants and like that, and making sure that those things were always up to date. Backup and disaster recoveries. Technically back then we didn't use tape drives, we had just hard drives we'd rsync to. So making sure that at least that happened once a month was actually a good thing. Because a lot of times it never really happened as much. Except for the mail server. They knew the mail server had to have backups like every freaking day. Or at least every week. So man, they gotta thank me for that one because yeah. Coordinate operation with teams. At first, it was really hard to coordinate anything with all the teams. But it wasn't until like 2011 when I got back is when I implemented a better system for them. I was able to once I made my changes, I implemented those changes towards the team. The team actually adopted that and all the baselines that go with it. You know, if I go back to them today, I'm pretty sure they'll still do the same thing I've set them up through. Recording things, making sure things are up to date, going through, making sure all the information's all set up and good to go. All the good stuff, you know. Number 4 on my list is the compliance and risk management. I try to do as much as I can to keep things up to date and with certain compliances and whatnot, but back then they didn't have ISO compliance or HIPAA compliance. They never even cared about the PCI DSS compliance. Actually, they didn't even care about the FCC or data protection. I try to do as much as I can, but a lot of that stuff ended up being even that stuff actually got brought up during the trial of the owner. You know, he was actually manipulating a lot of data protections for their clients, which was pretty sickening. And I try to prevent all that. I try to keep that little extra step of keeping customer data protected from people like the ISP owner. But yeah, and trying to conduct a better risk management and whatnot in case something did happen. But you can only go so far. The owner wants to become like the super king of everything, so you have to let him do what he has to do. I mean, in the end, he's the one who has to face the judge. So, customer and partner trust. This is possibly the best thing ever. Knowing that you have that best customer and partner trust is pretty much the partners were back then was connecting point. We had them as a partner trust. So we were able to trust them, to rely on them for anything that we needed for, I guess, as an MSP. Because back then, Connecting Point was an MSP, managed service provider, and but I didn't. And then a lot of the customers we had were either DSL clients, we had data center clients. We have always had good relationships with them, mainly because a lot of those good relationships were like, we didn't just want to have somebody just walk in and say, hey, we're dropping our server here. We actually wanted to make sure we lock in a good, nice, long deal with them. Mara, the ISP owner, loved to freaking try to lock them into like years of a contract with them. So he would develop like certain business times and dates and make sure, even clubbing. He would love to go clubbing with these clients and keep up these kinds of like relationships and stuff like that. So, but a lot of that stuff is like, I like to be more professional. He wasn't really professional at all. So, but because I was more professional, I ended to earn trust of those people, which that means like if I actually went back to them today, said, hey, I've worked with you before, can I work with you again? And 9 out of 10, they'll probably say yes, because they know me, they know the ISP owner, they probably will never work with him again, but they'll work with me again because they knew I was good. And they knew they can trust me, especially with their data and their clients and stuff like that. So that's the best thing about that. That way you develop that whole, I guess, security awareness around that. Number 6 on my list is the incident response and threat intelligence. Just like I was saying earlier, I couldn't build the team at the time because there wasn't really a team to really build, and everyone that I did work with, the ISP owner would end up pissing them off to a point to where they don't want to work with anybody, they just want to leave, because that's how it was. And so a lot of my stuff was building and using that incident report in case something like catastrophic something would happen. Like if a client got majorly hacked and all their stuff was leaked or something, at least I have everything put together, put aside, knowing where it came from and how it goes and stuff like that, and how to remediate it as quickly as I can. Having a good playbook kind of situation. Especially, I had a good playbook against DDoS attacks. We did get DDoS attacks a lot, and I knew how to actually step in and how to remediate that really quick. Especially if they're doing like a DDoS attack that actually is flooding that whole IP address, and because I was able to reshape the whole network where it doesn't take down everybody, I was able to mitigate that where all they had to do was basically just change their DNS around, kind of thing. It's always like a little DNS changes here and there back then. So, and when stuff like that, of course, happens, you have to let the help desk kind of know the playbook that's going on with the client. But it was kind of fun, actually. Collaboration and reporting is my number 7. So working closely with the network, well, technically I was the network engineer, I was the system administrator, I was the DevOps, I was the compliance teams, I was basically almost all those teams. So basically I was reporting to myself all the time. Got the CTO, which he was more trying to do that stuff. He was not really good at it, but he was trying to. He was more into trying to do the business aspect of things and trying to implement how things should be. And I would go behind him to make things really work and be better at things. So, like today is much easier. It's easier to freaking mitigate and use third-party crap. So back then, didn't have really that much. just somebody who actually sat down and really learned what they're doing and try to see how I can better them better and how to keep them, keep things secure, because I didn't want to get hacked. And that's back in the ISP days. So that's my number 7, collaboration and reporting. I couldn't collaborate with the CTO because CTO was in his own little world, and the CEO was the ISP's owner. He was in his own world, very not technical at all. So you couldn't even talk to him about anything about that. He thinks he's technical, but he's not. Not even. Especially the few times that like he was trying to find his email, his email disappeared because he typed in one word in the search bar. Pretty funny. Pretty funny. Let's see here. Number 8. This is my last on my list. Is resource management. A lot of the resources did come down from the CEO. He is the one that controlled all the cash and how things came in. So a lot of those times, I had to look for open source. I couldn't find open source because they didn't use any type of software compliance settings or anything else. I ended up using pirated software back then for utilizing for security and stuff like that. But that was back then. I mean, I try to use everything I can to make sure we had a fortress. Even if the software was pirated, I still use things as a fortress. I try to let them know, hey, I want to buy the software, but they can't afford it. They rather just go buy another $100,000 car instead. And we're like, okay, whatever. I mean, they get in trouble, right? I couldn't. A lot of resource management is basically put down to whatever the CEO can do. If he can actually make money from it, he'll go for it. If he can rip somebody off, he'll do it. But anything that would actually mitigate for real stuff for the ISP, he would totally drop it and forget about it. Because he's that kind of person. So I know through the years, I try to mentor people. So I think pretty much I started really mentoring people like about a year, 2004. I was writing a lot of angry blogs and stuff like that. I had coworkers actually trying to going to my blog and reading them and whatnot and understanding, and because of that, I was starting to really connect to my coworkers and actually mentoring them and how the whole network was starting to be handled and everything. But yeah, the whole ISP thing, I think in the end, it's just, in the end, I did so much for them. I became a multi-hat role. I try to do everything I can, especially if you look up a meeting what a CISO is. I did a lot of that for the ISP. I was their CISO this whole time. I was their CISO doing their stuff. I mean, so technically I was the partner, but I never got recognized for being that partner. And I think that's what got me in the end. But yeah, if you look at it, I did do it. I was there. I would love to do this again. Well, the positive side of things again. I mean, I took the time to learn software on how to protect, how to blue team the whole system. I did that all by myself, dude. I took the time to learn Cisco on my own, to fix problems, to implement new changes that I'm pretty sure they looked at and said, oh, wow, I didn't know I did that, and they thought they did it. Because that's how they work, and that's how they think. They steal other people's ideas because that's what they do. And yeah, it was just really cool. It was cool. It was fun. I actually had fun doing stuff like that. It's like knowing that I built a little fortress out of that whole ISP. It was amazing times. I would love to do that again. So I'm trying my hardest to get back into cybersecurity and stuff like that. But yeah, technically, that was my whole talk. That's what it was going to be. I wanted to take something that I had started off negative. I wanted to show there was a positive out of it. You just gotta look the bright side of things sometimes, especially when things look so dark. And being there's bad people out there, especially in small or big businesses, running bad things, doing bad stuff all the time. And sometimes you just gotta pay attention to what's going on, sometimes take advantage of the situation and make it good. And that's what I've done. I really did. So I did a lot of things, and I just would really wished I had ways to put that down, other than my book. I know my part 2 of my book, I'm actually listing everything that I did do because I did find CDs with some code and stuff like that that I had aside. They're hard to read, but I'm getting them and I'm putting them in the book. They're getting compiled, and when I get the chance, and yeah, I'm looking forward to get that released too. Especially the exploits I wrote. So yeah, I think that's pretty much what happened. Pretty much what I got going down. That is pretty much me in a nutshell. I'm not sure what we'll do for episode 7, but if I actually get some traction from episode 6 here, I will look forward to doing episode 7 next week. Oh no, next Friday is Halloween. Well, I can probably do something that night. But I'm pushing 40 minutes, and normally the DEF CON talks are normally 20. But yeah, I could have figured out something at the time. Yeah, that was my whole talk. That's what I was trying to do. I was trying to show I had something negative. I did something negative. I started off as a black hat. I became a white hat. And basically, black hat, red team. And I became more of a gray hat in the center. Then I became a white hat. Even if I had to use software of my past, I still did it because I wanted to protect the system. And that's how it should be, right? You wanted to do the protection, you want to do the best you can of what you got. Anyways, have a good night. That'll be it for the night. If I can think of a good topic for next week, I will throw it down and give an update. I know I haven't done this in a while, mainly because I've been stuck in a rut with tech burnout. I've been doing this job, my current role as a software engineer, field tech engineer / senior tech, and it's been really taxing on me because I'm in that tech burnout area, and I didn't want to be in tech. I wanted to be in cybersecurity, but I had to take a job so I don't go get homeless. That's what this whole job is. I know it's like burning me up, but I'm trying to find ways to really reshape myself to get back into cybersecurity, because that's where I want to be. I want to be protecting things. I want to help people. I want to mentor people, because I mentor my nephew, and he's like an ace at cybersecurity right now. And I don't want to just do it for one person. I want to do it for many people. I want to inspire next generation of people. That's what I want to do. Anyways, have a good night, and I'll be back on Monday night for games. But my next talk is Toge Southwest next Thursday. I might do an episode 7 on something. I haven't decided what yet. Maybe we'll do something Slackware based. Because, yeah. Anyways, have a good one. Thanks for hanging out. Bye.